Welcome back to the True Crime Guys podcast. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Michael.
What's up, people?
We're back again 2 weeks in a row. We ain't taking no days off.
Bro, I thought you were like pretty good artist,
Yeah.
musically inclined and talented until you did that right
I
there.
know. Well,
You just turned into like every 80s teacher trying to rap for the kids. Remember those videos?
Yes.
Those douche chills. Stay in school, cause it's cool.
yes.
Kill yourself.
That's right. They don't even change their clothes. They still wear their old nerdy clothes, but they just wear sunglasses that day.
Right.
Maybe like a backwards hat that they obviously
The
borrowed
worst
from
part
somebody
was
else.
like each line they would say, they would like stop and point at the
Yeah.
camera. And just like,
Just
stop, please stop. I'm gonna drop out of school now after this. Don't try to relate to the kids and act like you know what's cool. Just accept that you
Just
don't.
be classy.
And tell them they're dumb for liking the stuff they like. That's a
Yeah.
better way to go.
And then they'll
like,
find-
back in my day, we had cooler shit.
Yeah. This shit sucks.
You ever go to Woodstock,
we
bitch?
invented all your shit.
Right.
All of your shit was invented by us.
Right. Who's a hot artist right now, Michael? You always know this stuff.
I don't know, like Post Malone or
Post
somebody
Malone
like that.
wouldn't exist without the Beatles, okay?
Oh no, Post Malone thinks he's like a new fucking like Bob Dylan or the Beatles or some shit. Like he listens to stuff like that and then he puts out.
He wouldn't exist without Chuck Berry. Did you ever hear Johnny Be Good?
Of course. I doubt he has though. I don't know. He maybe has.
Right. All right. Are you ready to get back on track? Get into this case? Learn what it's like to spend 10 days in a madhouse?
I am. I hope you guys like this one. I picked this one as something a little bit different.
Yeah.
But one thing that was really interesting to me, it stuck out about this, was the test that they put people through to figure out if they were insane or not. Mm-hmm. Weren't they so? It just seemed so primitive. Yeah, or rudimentary to me. It just seemed like it wasn't. It was pretty lax. It was like people. It was more not so much people who were crazy or had these issues, but people that they just didn't want to deal with,
Right.
Or didn't fit in to society a lot of times. Maybe even they were just an immigrant.
Right.
You know, it's just
they couldn't speak the language well, so you just end up in you're mad all of a sudden.
Yeah,
You're a mad person, and you deserve to go
exactly
to the island.
Yeah, you're too different. We can't deal with you. You don't know our customs. You don't know our traditions. You must be mad.
Yeah, and if you've seen Shutter Island, I'm sure this story will kind of remind you of that movie.
Right.
Because there's a lot of people in madhouses that don't necessarily belong there, and especially during this time, back in the 1800s, it wasn't an exact science yet.
No, it was like a
Not a place you want to go.
It was like a place husbands could drop their wives off at and be like, "She crazy,"
right? They'd be like, "All right, we'll take her.
All right,
Throw her in the cold bath."
Yep.
Crazy story. Nellie Bly, badass. We're gonna tell you guys about her. Let's get into it.
Let's do it.
It is only after one is in trouble that one realizes how little sympathy and kindness there are in the world. Nellie Bly.
I have watched patients stand and gaze longingly toward the city they in all likelihood will never enter again. It means liberty and life. It seems so near, and yet heaven is not further from hell.
You say I only hear what I want to.
Oh, 100%. Something along these.
And you say I talk so all the time. And I thought what I felt was simple. And I thought that I don't belong. And now that I am leaving, now I know that I did something wrong. 'Cause I missed you. Yeah. I missed you.
That was the greatest night of my existence. For a few hours, I stood face to face with myself.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special treat for you tonight. It's the True Crime Guys are here. and they're covering Stephen Foster's great hit, Nellie Bly. Everybody listen, here it comes. Or don't. Nellie Bly, bring the broom along. We'll sweep the kitchen, clean my beer, and have a little song. Poke the wood, my lady love, and make the fire burn. And while I take the banjo down, just give the mush a turn. And hi, Nellie, oh Nellie, listen, love to me. I'll sing for you and play for you, dulcet melody. Nellie Bly has a voice like a turtle dove. I hear it in the meadow and I hear it in the road. Nellie Bly has a heart warm as a cup of tea and bigger than the sweet potatoes down in Tennessee. Hi, Nellie, oh Nellie, listen, love to me. I'll sing for you and play for you, dulcet melody. Hi, Nellie, oh Nellie, listen, love to me. I'll sing for you and play for you, dulcet melody. Hi, Nellie, oh Nellie, listen, love to me. I'll sing for you and play for you, dulcet melody.
It's much more authentic.
All right, our case this week. There's no murder. There's no real crime aside from maybe the mental hospitals that she was checked into, mainly.
Yeah, by the nurses and doctors there. I mean, that should be a crime.
Right.
Crimes against humanity, I guess, if you would. I don't know, taking advantage of people who are sick and
Mainly
senseless.
Blackwell Island had some criminal
Yeah.
activity as far as like their treatment of their patients.
Right.
And this place is real interesting part of history. It's now in it was in New York. It's Roosevelt Island now, and you can still go visit this old building. They call it the Octagon. It was the New York City Lunatic Asylum back in the 1800s, and it sounds as though that's a place where only really sick people would go, right?
Yeah, and it's long term as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's people that just didn't fit in, like we talked about earlier.
But if you assumed that it was people that were really sick and needed help and treatment, you may
Yeah.
not be right. You may have just been a person that didn't fit into society, or someone got
Exactly.
tired of being around.
I'm not saying there weren't some. Yeah, there were some people there that were mentally ill.
Right,
I mean,
definitely.
obviously, but I don't see how the treatment they got there is going to help. It's basically just caging them and keeping them alive.
Right.
I don't know. I guess that's just they think that that's doing good enough for someone that's that difficult to take care of.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it was considered charity
Yeah,
in their
exactly.
eyes, the people running this institution. And there was talk of it maybe not being on the up and up as far as like the treatment of the patients there. There was some kind of like stuff that was leaking, it seemed
Yeah.
like. And a really awesome person got assigned an interesting task of getting their way in there. And that's what this case is about. 10 Days in a Madhouse, written by Nellie Bly, is what we used to study for this case.
Very interesting book.
Very interesting book. This person, we're going to dive into her life, and basically she managed to get herself checked into this psychiatric ward
Which apparently was very easy.
by
in the
convincing everyone
1800s.
that she was crazy.
was
At one
very
point,
easy.
she got taken from a what was it? Like a women's
Like
shelter.
a women's shelter,
To
right?
convince them all she was crazy. Got herself detained by the police and taken to Bellevue, where she was basically
Diagnosed crazy.
questioned and given a test to see if she's crazy, and basically deemed positively demented and was quoted as saying she needs to be put where someone will take care of her. I consider it a hopeless case. That was the doctor that.
That was his diagnosis after what? How long did he spend with her? You think in the book? Probably.
Well, we're
5
going to get
minutes.
into it, but we're just kind of
I mean,
giving
he probably. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Checks her eyes, checks her pulse, ask her a few questions.
Her eyes were dilated because she was nearsighted or
Right,
something
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
She told them that they didn't. That's the thing is like the more you tell these people that you're not crazy, the more crazy they consider you.
Because at a certain point, she stopped acting crazy.
Yeah.
She was like, okay, I need to start. I need to.
I want to see how they
I'm not even
react
gonna
if
try
I
to
act
crazy.
totally normal, and
Yeah.
they just thought she was even crazier.
It's so ironic,
And
right?
she's talking to all these people in there, and then she's like, they're not crazy at all. Most of them, or a lot of them.
Right. It makes you wonder how much of people, the way we judge people, is just a preconceived notion of what we've already heard about them, or
Right.
I think anytime I dive into something, I try to get rid of anything someone else has told me about it.
Yeah.
I mean, you realize you have people in your life that when they tell you something, it's like, okay, I have a lot in common with this person. Like, I'm probably going to like this, or I'll probably enjoy that, or whatever. But for the most part, I think if people would come at things completely open with and not consider anyone else's opinions, you would like a lot more things.
I feel like if Facebook didn't exist, I would like family and friends more. That's why I got rid of my Facebook years ago. But like just social media in general, like you don't need to hear like their darkest inner thoughts and like their opinions on politics.
Oh, yeah.
And like, you just like, I liked you. And then you said this stupid thing on Facebook. And now next time
Right.
we hang out at a holiday, I'm going to be like, God damn you.
Now you're going to have that preconceived notion about how that person is now.
Right.
Especially if it's a family member that you haven't known in a few years. People change all the time.
Yeah.
People change over a course of 6 months.
Yeah.
You ain't seen nobody in 2 years. You can't roll up on them and expect them to be the exact same person. They've
Right.
had these people in their lives come and go. It's interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just liked the simpler time when you didn't know what Uncle Jerry thought. And, you just talked to him on Thanksgiving and caught up. And,
You stayed in safe zones with people, and you're just like, you know what? As long as we stay on these categories right here, me and Uncle Jerry get along.
yeah,
just
like I don't
fine.
like hearing gossip
Right. Let's just enjoy each other's company.
because then it's just going to make me not like the other person. And if the person's cool to me,
And then-
every time I see them, then I don't want to hear, I don't know.
Right.
We can go down that whole
No.
rabbit hole. But what we were trying to say is like, how do you really know a person's crazy? What kind of tests? Back then, they really didn't know what they were doing. I'm sure we've gotten a lot better
Right.
with all the different classes you can take and the further education and the history and like really like we've come a long way with mental health. And back then, it was still in the rudimentary stages, like you said. This test that they gave you to find out whether you were
Right. And
sick or not.
they had no real healing processes in line. They didn't have anything
right, just
like
lock
that.
them up and keep them out of society.
Yeah,
We don't want to deal with them.
Exactly. It was basically just isolation. That's the only quote unquote cure they had. There was nothing to help these people get better and that's evidence in itself that they had no understanding
These
what was
places
going on.
seem like they were a fast track to just make you crazier. Like Nellie, a quote later in this book that we'll get to. It was briefly. She talks about how this treatment that I'm
Mm-hmm.
getting in here, like within a month or two, this would make a normal person insane.
Exactly. And then what, right? Then that person has to stay there.
Yeah.
Therefore, they have more tenants now. Now they get more government funding.
Yeah.
Now they make
That
more.
they don't use to help the patients have a decent life.
Oh, of course not.
But
But
sure,
who's-
it's just staying at the top. The warden or whatever, whoever's fucking running the place, is probably kicking
Oh,
some down
yeah.
to the nurses, and
Oh, absolutely.
the food's still garbage.
But
We'll get into it, but
Yeah. Okay.
we're just excited to talk about this case.
There's so much discussion to be had here.
But the way it starts was we're going to start with Nellie Bly, the person who did this interesting. What would you call it? She did
It's interesting.
Experiment.
Experiment.
journalistic experiment where
Yeah.
she went
Social
undercover.
experiment. It was
Social
necessary.
experiment. Yeah, dude, she did some great things with this. So Nellie Bly at birth, she was named Elizabeth Jane Cochran. She was born in Cochran's Mills, now part of a Pittsburgh suburb in Armstrong County, Pennsylvania. Her father, Michael Cochran, born about 1810, started out as a laborer and mill worker before buying the local mill and most of the land surrounding his family farmhouse. He later became a merchant, postmaster, and an associate justice at Cochran's Mills, which was actually named after him.
Oh, wow. I was wondering about that. I was like,
Right.
wait a second. That's interesting.
That's pretty dope when you got your own town,
Hell
your own
yeah.
streets, and all that shit.
I think it's pretty safe to say that Nellie took after her dad. Like, she was a go-getter.
Oh yeah,
It's pretty cool.
yeah. She didn't really care about society's constraints or anything. I'm gonna
Oh, hell no.
do what I want to do.
Right.
Michael married twice. He had 10 children with his first wife, Catherine Murphy, and 5 more children, including Elizabeth, with his second wife, Mary Jane Kennedy. A lot of kids being
Whoa,
had back then.
15 kids.
Like you said, you kind of briefly mentioned in the last episode about like the 7 kids or whatever. You're
Yeah.
like, that's your own. Back then, I feel like they really just had kids to be able to keep up with their farms and
Right.
whatnot. Like you just had kids as your own little personal slaves.
Yeah, and condoms weren't in mass production either.
That's
I don't think.
That's true. And then religion was running rampant
That's
more back
right.
then, and it's
Yep.
like you
Let
don't
God
spill
decide.
your seed. You don't
Let
waste
God
it.
decide, Lorne. Be fruitful and multiply.
God, I have so many kids. Can you stop?
Give me the strength
You
to
keep
pull out.
deciding. You keep deciding to give me more headaches. Can't even hear myself think with all these kids.
But thank you for the garden help.
Right. So 10 children with his first wife and 5 more with his second wife. 15 kids this guy
Damn,
has.
15 kids, man.
One of them being Elizabeth. Nellie Bly was what she would later be known as. As a young girl, Elizabeth would often be called Pinky because she so frequently wore that color. As she became a teenager, she wanted to portray herself as a more sophisticated, and so she dropped the nickname and changed her surname to Cochran. She attended boarding school for 1 term, but after her father's death in 1870, she was forced to drop out of school due to a lack of funds.
I wonder what happened there. I wonder if her. No, wait. He was married to her mom.
The second
right?
wife, yeah.
Man, it doesn't seem, because I was thinking like if he was married to her stepmom at the time, maybe she took the money that or any inheritance that her father may have had, or maybe there wasn't anything. But he seemed like a very successful guy. Mm-hmm. Seemed like he would have had something to leave for the family.
Right.
It's interesting that right after his death.
Well, maybe they had to make some cuts here and there, and like her furthering her education wasn't a big.
Okay, yeah, I could see that. Yeah, in 1870s, I
Yeah.
could see that's not a big deal. It's like it's more important for you to get to work. Yeah.
Right, and they probably whatever money they got, if the mother isn't working yet, if she was dependent on the father's income, then they need to keep what they have to try and figure out what they're going to do.
Right.
In 1880, Cochran's mother moved her family to Pittsburgh. A newspaper column entitled "What Girls Are Good For" in the Pittsburgh Dispatch that reported girls were principally for birthing children and keeping house promoted Elizabeth to write a response under the pseudonym Lonely Orphan Girl. So
Nice.
this is where it started. This is how she kind of
This is her first little rebellious thing that she did here.
Yeah, the editor, George Madden, was impressed with her passion and ran an advertisement asking for the author to identify herself. When Cochran introduced herself to the editor, he offered her the opportunity to write a piece for the newspaper, again under the pseudonym Lonely Orphan Girl. Her first article for the Dispatch, entitled "The Girl Puzzle," was about how divorce affected women. In it, she argued for reform of divorce laws. Madden was again impressed with her and offered her a full-time job. It was customary for women who were newspaper writers at the time to use pen names. The editor chose Nellie Bly after the title character in the popular song Nellie Bly by Stephen Foster. So that's how she got her name.
That's a cool name.
This editor called her that, but the song is dog shit. I looked it up on YouTube. It's horrible.
Well, I mean, it's
but it was the song
dude.
was made in like 1850.
Yeah, give him a break.
It's pretty bad, dude. Should we play like a little bit of it, dude?
We can play a little bit of it.
It's catchy, but you just hate that it's.
Right.
I was singing it for a little bit. I'm like, God, I hate it. Here it is. Let's just play a little bit of it so you guys can understand my hate for this song.
Cool.
Maybe it's unfounded. I don't know.
Garbage.
Listen to this.
Nellie Bly,
Ooh.
bring the broom along. We'll sweep the kitchen clean, my dear, and have a little song. Put the wood, my lady love, and make the fire burn. And while I take the banjo down, just give the mush a turn. Hey,
What a hit, bro.
Nellie, ho, Nellie, listen, love to me.
Hey, Nelly. Oh, Nelly. Oh.
You a dose of
Wow.
melody.
What a genius, right?
This is like, if you wanted to make a little form of hell for me, play this song.
Play this over and over again.
Play this song. I was talking about this with my wife last night. I think it'd be a great premise for like a comedy. Maybe like Sunny in Philadelphia could pull off an episode where it's like everyone's own little version of hell. Like, and it's like stupid shit. But like
Yeah.
for me, like when I'm doing the dishes and the tile gets wet and I'm standing in, I hate it. Like
Especially if you got socks on.
like when a kid
It's
is
like, fuck these
on
socks.
when a kid is on the sidewalk and they have dirt and they're like using their nails on the sidewalk.
Oh yeah.
When
You don't like that?
The way they use their fingernails and they scrape across dry concrete. That if you had this song going,
Yeah.
wet tile,
Right.
that's the
Somebody
worst thing I can
scratching
think
a
of.
fork on a plate.
That's my wife's. That doesn't bother me as much.
Oh really?
Yeah,
Okay.
like my cousin, if you rub a pizza box like the cardboard, he'll like go insane.
Oh, I'm cool with that.
Certain stuff like that.
That's-
Like my
that's
dad
weird.
is wet cardboard. He hates wet cardboard.
Oh,
He will like punch you if you like rip a piece of wet cardboard in front of him. That's his version of hell.
That's
so like
so
a bunch of
crazy.
people with, it'd be a funny episode though if they went through each character's little version
Yeah.
of hell.
my youngest daughter was not obsessed, but she was terrified of these little squishy rubber things that they're like little really squishy stress balls for kids. Like you squeeze them and then like a bubble pops out.
Yeah,
You know what
like
I'm talking
the
about?
eyeballs. There's
Yeah.
ones with the eyeballs that pop out. Yeah.
But it was like that, and it had these little rubber hairs all over it. She was terrified of that thing, dude.
So her version of hell, she's laying in a bed of those
we
things.
used to just like set it behind her, and if she would turn around and just like jump up like a freaking cat, it was crazy. My son used to torture her with that thing. We eventually had to throw him away.
Nice.
Even now, she's a little bit unsettled. She's 5, and she'll hold it, but she's like, I don't want to hold this anymore.
Wow.
She just don't like it, and it's weird. It's just like I wonder if some of these things are like from birth, because she was so young. She had no reason not to like
Right.
this thing. The kids love those.
So, yeah.
My other two.
Maybe something in a past life
Yeah,
with
maybe.
those things. You never know.
Maybe.
And in a past life, like when I lived in the 1800s,
Yeah.
Hey Nellie, Whoa Nellie was playing on repeat or
Oh,
something at
dude,
work,
yeah.
and I hated it. I don't know.
Yeah, or you were maybe getting
Hey
beaten.
Nellie.
You're
Ugh.
getting like beaten in some prison or something.
Yeah,
you know?
they're playing that
You had
shit.
chained up. Hey, Nelly, whoa, Nelly.
Yeah. Awful. Stephen Foster's over there in the corner because he was alive too, playing that song.
Right.
Hey Nellie.
Shut the fuck
Shut up, Steven.
I'm gonna break that fucking loot over your head. Whatever they were playing then.
So she gets the new name of Nellie Bly to be her writing character name, and she's now working for the Pittsburgh Dispatch. Initially, she's writing investigative articles on female factory workers. However, after the factory owners complained, she was reassigned to the women's pages covering fashion, society, and gardening. Of course, because back then, this is like super sexism going
They're
on.
like,
She's
whoa, stay in your
hey,
lane.
yeah.
Stay in your lane there, Nelly.
Right.
What do you know about factory workers
Picture-
that are also females?
Picture the douche,
It's
like a douchebag
Right.
owner of one of these factories,
Yeah.
like being like the dude from Mad Men. What's his name?
I know you're
His
talking
character
about.
in it,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
with like a whiskey and going up to the owner, the
super chauvinist dude.
going up to the editor and like keep your female employees in line.
Yeah,
Send her
we're
back to the
gonna-
fashion section.
Don't you think you should be covering something a little more your speed, like fashion
Right.
or gardening? Nelly.
So stupid.
Like, what an ass.
Right. Meanwhile, it's because she was getting to the bottom of shit at their factory.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's exactly what it was.
So she gets a new assignment. Eventually, she was set off for New York, though, because she got tired of, I'm guessing, dealing with this bullshit.
Right.
She goes to New York, and on September 22nd, an editor at The World, so she starts working at this for a magazine called The World, I believe, right? An editor at The World asked Nellie Bly if she would have herself committed to one of the asylums for the insane in New York City with the goal of writing an honest narrative of the treatment of patients and a review of management. And so an undercover gig, this is more her speed. She likes getting to the bottom of shit like this, some real
Absolutely.
journalism.
This is some hands-on shit right here.
And she takes this as a challenge, and this would become one of her life's great works, was what she accomplishes here.
Absolutely. She was
Getting herself committed and all that.
One
She
thing
did
that
some
she-
other cool shit, though, too. To be fair.
Yeah. She traveled around the world.
Travel around the world in 72 days.
That's
which
crazy.
The prior record was 80, I believe, or
I think
someone
that
else
was based
trying
on
to
a
do
movie,
80.
right? She
Yeah.
based that on the movie or
that's
the
right,
book,
yeah.
Around the World in 80 Days. But yeah, one thing she did not lack was confidence.
No.
She was confident in herself. Like throughout the book, like she was like, I was pretty confident in my acting abilities. Like how?
Right.
Like you that's impressive to me. To have people staring, people literally you're under a stethoscope and lights and
But I
and all
feel
this
like
shit,
also,
and
like, it was so easy to, like, they're in the power position, right? The person who's evaluating you, like a judge on fucking American Idol or something.
Okay.
They're in the power positions. They're already immediately, like, sitting in a higher chair looking down on you, like, is this person crazy or not? I get to decide. And, like,
Yeah.
everything they do probably seems crazy to that, through that lens.
Right, because you're coming at it with a preconceived notion of
Right.
okay, someone thinks she's crazy.
Exactly.
Somebody does.
So all you got to do is convince
Yeah.
other people you're crazy, and then the person evaluating you is going to take that into consideration. Like, well, all these people said she's crazy, so
Yeah.
all
like
I
if,
have to do is basically give the stamp to it.
like if I
crazy.
introduced you to somebody, I'm like, here's Crazy Lorne. They'd be
Right.
like, well, why was he called Crazy? Oh no, I mean just Lorne.
I'm all looking at him cross-eyed.
Yeah, now for the rest of the time. Now for the rest of the time,
Seems normal to me,
Motherfucker's
huh?
crazy, and you don't even do anything out of the ordinary. You're just fucking like doing normal.
Dude, if you introduced me as Crazy Lorne, I would definitely have to live up to it. I'd do some shit.
Fair enough.
Start
Next meetup
spreading
we go
peanut
to.
butter in my armpits for some reason. That's how I like to eat my sandwich, guys.
Lorne, that's not oh my guy, yeah.
It's the new peanut butter scent.
Oh God.
Dogs love it.
Oh, yes. My dog stays right beside me.
So she gets this assignment. She takes it as a challenge. The series of articles she produced from the assignment became a best-selling book, launching Bly's career. I almost said Billy. Bly's career as a world-famous investigative reporter and helping bring reform to the asylum. In the late 1880s, New York newspapers were full of chilling tales about brutality and patient abuse at the city's various mental institutions. So like I talked about at the beginning, like there was a lot of rumors about mistreatment
Right.
there, but they didn't have anyone to go in and really find out, because obviously if they sent in a person whose job it is to evaluate this thing, they're just going to be on their best behavior. They're going to get a heads up. These people are coming, and that's what ends up happening later after Bly gets out and starts talking about this. They tried to kind of clean up their act.
Well, I think a lot of the rumors probably, when you got down to the base of it, they looked at the rumor. They're like, okay, this started with a crazy person.
Right.
And then the person that brought it to our attention was probably a family member of the crazy person who would be, nobody's going to treat your family members good enough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even if they are a little mentally ill, like you still are going to seek the best treatment for them. So I think a lot of these suggestions and these complaints got pushed under the rug because of where they're coming from.
Right.
You know what I mean? You got a crazy person
yeah.
telling somebody who the one person probably that cares about that crazy person, and then that person is raising the complaint. So they're like, well, of course, it's a public institution. You get what you get. This is charity. If you don't want them in there, take care of them yourself.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I'm not trying to defend them. I'm just saying I think this is a good reason why this didn't.
Why it went on for so
Why
long.
it wasn't chased before Nellie doing this whole experiment.
Right. Entering the scene came 23-year-old Nellie Bly. At a time when most female writers were limited to newspaper society pages, she was determined to make a name for herself. The editor at The World liked Bly's attitude, drive, and challenged her with the story to provide herself or to prove herself as a detective reporter. Her instructions were to go on with her work as soon as she felt was ready. She was to chronicle her experiences, and once inside the walls of the asylum, find out the inner workings. Now, Nellie initially thought she wasn't sure of her abilities to get in there. She didn't think she'd be able to get in there, and if she did, it seems as though she was pretty naive and she didn't believe the mistreatment rumors that were about or whatever. She figured if she did get in, she was just going to be living as a normal patient, and
Right, and
man,
everything
was she
would be
wrong.
fine.
She was wrong.
Yeah, she was a little bit wrong on that.
Yeah, but I think she came from a good family and a good upbringing, and she just, she had like maybe a positive lens on things.
Dude, she lived in a place that was her surname. Like,
right.
you know what I'm saying? Like,
Right, yeah, her dad owned the town.
Yeah,
essentially.
it was named after her dad. Like, I think she lived okay.
Right.
Yeah.
She asked the editor, "How will you get me out after I get in?" The editor told her, "I do not know." He replied, "But we will get you out if we have to tell who you are and what your purpose is for your feigned insanity, only to get in." So.
Yeah, that's scary. That's a scary thing too, because like if you get
like
in
that
there,
hasn't been tried before. Like, don't you think a family member has gone and said like this? My family member's not crazy. She just had a bad night or whatever, or like even tried something as far as like.
Oh
maybe
yeah.
She's a reporter or something like that. Like, how are they supposed to believe
Right, and how many?
maybe if he shows his credentials as the editor of this magazine?
And how many of the crazy people who are in there who are actually mentally ill are saying, I'm fine now, because the
Right.
treatment is so bad. Like they'll do anything. Like they do. Maybe they do snap out of it. Maybe they do realize like, hey, like even this is not good for me.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like this is good, not even for me. Like this is not.
I'm
worth
sure they hear
free.
it all every way to try and get out.
Oh yeah.
So she's taking a big risk and really putting a lot of trust into her boss, saying that he can get her out if she gets in there. Mm-hmm. The stylish and petite Bly, who was always smiling, set off to practice her crazy. The editor had mentioned he was concerned about how much Bly smiled, and she told him, "I will smile no more."
Oh, well, there you go. Done.
Bly-
Adapt and overcome.
Bly, dressed in tattered secondhand clothes, she stopped bathing and brushing her teeth, and for hours she practiced looking like a lunatic in front of the mirror. Posing as Nellie Brown, she checked herself into a temporary boarding house for women. And this is where she was kind of going to build the story of her craziness and try to get other people on board with her being crazy. And this is like the starting
think
block for getting into the
This
asylum.
is a great way to start because you
It is.
start
She's
off
smart.
as a stranger.
Very
So
smart.
you go somewhere where you're not known, and then
Yeah.
you just show up in a place where people who are not known can show up.
Right.
People who have nowhere to
She's
go.
not immediately going to an asylum and trying
Exactly.
to convince them she's crazy. She's going to
Exactly.
convince normal people she's crazy, who are then going to go tell the asylum she's crazy, or the police who will tell them
Right.
the asylum she's crazy. Very smart
It's
way
much
to start.
easier to fool normal people who aren't diagnosing
Yes.
these people.
You just
all the
gotta act
time.
different from them.
And then you have the person to introduce you. This is
Right.
crazy Nellie.
Yes, exactly. Peanut butter in the armpits.
That's right. She's ready to go.
She says, I knew if I once made a house full of women believe me crazy, that they would never rest until I was out of their reach and in secure quarters. So that's what she did. She went into this boarding house for women, this temporary boarding house, and convinced all of the other women there that she was crazy enough to where they didn't even want to be alone with her because they thought she was going to harm them. And within 24 hours, her irrational, hostile rants had the other residents fearing for their lives. She said later, it was the greatest night of my life.
I bet it was fun. I bet it was fun.
She went in there, and what her initial game plan was, she started calling all the other people crazy.
Yeah.
Which is
She
fucking
was like,
beautiful.
I don't feel safe in here. It's like she refused to sleep, and she's sitting up and like,
Yeah, she made herself stay up all night. So she
Yep.
was boarded up with this other woman, and she literally just stared like, I don't know if she stared at the woman or at the wall, but she just like, she said it was the longest night of her life because it was so hard to not pass out. And
Oh,
it's
I
so
bet.
boring just sitting there in the dark while this other person's sleeping
Right.
in silence and just making yourself stay awake.
But what better to prove you're crazy than to deny
person-
yourself like
that
basic
person wakes up
needs?
in the morning and you're still just staring at the
Yeah,
wall.
like you don't eat, you don't sleep, you just sit there fucking
Right.
staring at the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That'll do the job.
That'll do the job. And then insisting that everyone else is trying to kill you constantly when
Right.
everyone else is completely
Yeah, I'm
normal.
not sleeping in the same room with this chick. I'd be staring at her too, but like, I'm gonna keep my eyes on you.
I know. How did the other lady sleep in there? Like, wake up, bitch! This lady over here ain't even sleeping.
Staring at the wall.
You just met her today.
Right. The police detained Bly, and she was initially taken to Bellevue's hospital psychiatric ward. So this is her first. This is kind of like the minor leagues for getting to the island. She's
Right.
ultimately trying to get to the island, and this is like the stopping point. There were only 3 other patients at the time in the ward. Nellie spoke to all 3 women that were there. The first was sick from overwork, and she had been taken to the hospital. So that's kind of
Yep.
her first run-in with maybe not everyone here is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
When her family was unable to pay for her care, she was sent to Bellevue. So members of society that people just didn't want to deal with anymore,
Yep.
or they had some kind of vindictive, this is like their way of getting revenge on a person. Like we saw a husband whose wife supposedly cheated on him and he dropped
Right.
her off.
How many of these people do you think dealt with maybe like a not so obvious mental illness, like maybe like bipolar or like extreme depression or anxiety or something like that, and they just had these fits, like these manic episodes where they would go up
Yeah.
or down, and they were perfectly sane. It's just
Half the time
this
or more.
wasn't even considered as a
Right.
possibility. So
Yeah.
how many people with just that
Probably
could have
all
been-
of them, I'd
Yeah.
say probably a good 70%. And then there's probably, there was a certain percentage that they're gone, or
Yeah.
they just need to be watched, and maybe if a family member can't take care of them, they do belong in a place, but this place needs to be better run than what we see here for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this woman, as we said, was unable to pay for her care, and so her family dropped her off at Bellevue. Nellie asked this woman about her mental state, and she claimed that she claimed to be perfectly sane, but noted that doctors had been, quote unquote, asking me many curious questions and confusing me as much as possible. Nellie believed the woman was just as sane as she was. So
Yeah,
they
she
bring
spoke
you
with
in
her for a
these-
while too.
They ask you these really confusing, misleading questions, and then the answers. Seems like there's probably no answer that could make you not seem crazy.
What do you call it? Word judo?
Verbal
No,
judo.
Verbal judo. That's
That's
what cops call it too,
Cops
right?
use verbal judo.
Verbal judo.
to get consent to search you and
You
stuff
got to be
like
careful, people.
Yeah,
Be careful out there.
the
People out here
big
using
difference-
verbal judo.
that. If a cop says to you, I'm going to give you some real pertinent information. I talked to a
Yes.
cop recently, and he said basically what they do at times is they will trick you into giving consent to search you. And so they'll be like, so I'm going to go ahead and pat you down. They're allowed to pat you down. They're
Right.
not allowed to search you without consent. So they'll be like, I'm going to go ahead and pat you down. And as they're like turning you around, patting you down, they go, so it's okay if I search you, right? And if they say that and you say yes, they now have
There you
consent to
go.
go into your pockets and everything else.
But you can stop that search at any time.
Yes.
Right? You can say, I'm not comfortable with this search anymore,
Yeah.
or I don't adhere
Once
to
you've
this search.
consented, you can take back the consent.
Yeah.
So right when they're about to find your stash.
Yeah, right when they're about right when they're about to pop open that tail light, man. I know what y'all are doing. Listen, you just tell them, not comfortable with this anymore, man.
Right.
Not com-
So this is from the words of from a police officer, not local here. I won't tell you where because I'm
No.
not going to blow his cover. But
right.
yeah, so this is from
Probably gonna get a
interesting
bunch.
information.
Dude, I'm a cop, bro.
Thanks for
we don't
blowing
do
our cover,
any-
asshole.
We don't even do that shit, man. We don't pull those. We don't pull that stuff, man.
Right. Not all cops want to
No.
try and trick the people,
Exactly.
but the ones that do, that's the way they do it.
That's right. Watch out for that verbal judo.
The more you
peeps.
know. The more you know.
Car salesmen are also pretty good at it.
Right. One of the other patients that Nellie talked to at this place was a poor woman who needed medical attention, and while Nellie believed she was not very bright, she also did not seem insane. The third patient that was there, aside from Nellie, would not say much. She told Nellie that her case was hopeless, and then she refused to speak anymore. Meeting these three women assured Nellie that she would have no trouble convincing the doctors that she was insane, seeing as she didn't really think any of them were insane themselves.
Yeah, because you don't have to be insane, apparently, to be here.
Right. After being interviewed by the doctor at Bellevue, they determined she was positively demented.
Positively demented.
The doctor noted, "I consider it a hopeless case." Now, she this is the one where she like tried to tell them that she was from Cuba or something, right?
Yeah.
She's like, "I know you."
Now, she did give some crazy answers.
She did.
She did. She said she was from Cuba, and then every once in a while she would use like Spanish, just like small words, like no, thank,
Yeah.
no gracias, señor, or whatever. Like she would just use little phrases.
And she told them she had no idea where she was, right?
yeah.
Like she was in New York, and she was,
And she's obviously a white girl from Pittsburgh. Like,
Right.
like you're obviously not from Cuba.
right.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, several of the city's other newspapers took an interest in what one called the mysterious Wolf of the Wild, haunted look in her eyes. So she had everybody hoodwinked, and
Because
soon
she's
enough,
farsighted.
so
or
there's
nearsighted,
who's
right?
this young pretty girl who's crazy, talking about she's from Cuba and stuff like that. She started kind of getting some attention in that way.
Right.
She's a little worried about being discovered, like somebody might recognize her, like as the writer.
That's right. Yeah.
Soon enough, she was aboard the filthy ferry to Blackwell's Island, and she was on her way to where she wanted to be all along.
Filthy Fairy. That was her words, right?
I think that's what it was known as.
Oh, it was known as the Filthy Fairy?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
The island. Let's talk a
Terrible.
little bit about Blackwell's Island, what's now Roosevelt's Island in New York.
Okay.
Opened as America's first municipal mental hospital in 1839, Blackwell's Island, known today as Roosevelt Island, was meant to be a state-of-the-art institution committed to moral, humane rehabilitation of patients. And it was far from that at this time.
Committed to it, huh?
Right. In 1840, well, it got kind of out of control, like as far as
Yeah.
like the population grew and they didn't grow with the population. In 1840, only 1 year after opening, the population was at 278, and by 1870, with no significant improvement in housing or infrastructure, the hospital housed 1,300.
Whoa.
Far more than any state hospital at the time. This overcrowding greatly hindered not only living conditions at the hospital, but also made it impossible for the internal administration to be efficient.
Of course.
This was evident in the substandard diet of patients, frequent outbreaks of disease, and even employment of convicts from Blackwell's Island prison as attendants to reduce costs. So they're using prisoners to fucking...
To deal with insane people.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, they're going to get great treatment out of those
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, exactly.
By 1866, the hospital had grown to several buildings, 3 of which held patients. These were the Asylum, in the original building, the Lodge or Madhouse, and the Retreat. So 3 different kind of quarters.
Right.
The asylum was housed in the original 1836 structure, consisting of 2 wings meeting at a right angle, joined in the center by an 8-sided tower. I think that's the octagon. I don't know. Anybody from New York that's been to this, it's kind of like, it seems like a tourist
Yeah.
thing now.
The 8-sided tower.
Yeah.
Okay.
Each wing consisted of 3 stories and an attic. 1 wing housed men and other women. The central octagon was used for physicians' apartments and offices. The central octagon. That's
Right.
now you can go visit that, I believe,
Okay.
as a tourist. The Retreat was a 3-story workshop building formerly used by the workhouse, but was used by the asylum to house female patients who outnumbered male patients. In the lodge, there was 4 halls dedicated to females, while only 2 were for males. The lodge was where the more violent and newly admitted patients were housed. So let's put the most violent with the new people coming in. That'll give them a good sense for how
Yeah.
it's going to be when they
Right.
the
Just
first
break
day
them
you
in
just
right?
show up and just sharpening fucking toothbrushes over there.
A new
looking
guy
at you.
comes into work, you just give him the hardest shit. You're like, well, if he can handle this, he'll be
Right.
fine.
Sadly, I think our work does that.
Yeah.
The new patients were kept here until their disposition could be positively identified. Those considered nonviolent were moved to either the asylum or the retreat. Although other writers had reported on conditions at the asylum, notably Charles Dickens in 1842, who described its listless madhouse air as very painful. However, none of them had gone in and gone undercover. Nellie Bly was the first one to go undercover. Also
Yeah.
worth considering is the fact that the asylum was significantly more overcrowded when Bly was there. So she really experienced it at the height of its
So
terribleness.
Charles Dickens was making this assumption just off being outside.
Right. Looks pretty bad to me.
Looks listless and
I don't know.
mad.
Did he have a British accent?
I don't know. I don't know.
Seemed like everybody did back in the 1800s, right? We're all immigrants here, like early immigrants, like the first immigrants.
Right.
So, somewhere in Europe over there.
Yeah, exactly.
What Nellie found went far past her worst expectations. There were obvious doctors and coarse, massive orderlies who choked, beat, and harassed patients and expirated tobacco juice on the floor in a manner more skillful than charming. So the nurses are walking around spitting, chewing tobacco on the floor.
But it says it's more skillful than charming. I mean, was it skillful? Are they hitting cans? They hitting them?
Spittoon!
Yep, they're hitting cans, man.
Hit a spittoon from across the room. There were foreign women completely sane who were committed simply because they couldn't make themselves understood. Yeah, she talked later about this German woman.
Yeah,
Nellie
there was also a French woman there as well.
Yeah, Nellie observed a German woman during intake. The doctor was unable to speak to her, but the female attendant present was from Germany. The doctor asked for her help, but she pretended that she could only speak a few words in German. Nellie thought it appeared as though she was ashamed of her heritage. So one of the attendants, the people that work for this, directly under the doctor, and she was talking about how she was like flirting with the doctor the whole time and totally disinterested in the German girl, like, oh yeah, she's crazy.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be like analyzing her, right? Like,
Exactly.
And the attendant there speaks fluent German, but she's acting like she can't, and just making this poor girl's case completely hopeless. Like, oh, she's just because she's German, she's crazy.
Right,
now.
and because she wants to be alone with the doctor, probably.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. She did seem like she had, or at least the way Nellie wrote it, it seemed like she was way more interested in what the doctor
and the
had
doctor
to
was
offer.
way more interested in her.
Yeah,
Than
absolutely.
the patient. 100%.
Yeah.
And this is one of her first experiences in Nellie speaking. One of her first experiences when she first gets there. She sees this. She's like, this is strange.
Yeah.
Not a good sign.
No.
The nurse is spitting tobacco all over the floor. Also not a great sign.
Right.
The fact that everyone here seems seems normal, except for the people working here.
Yeah, right. It's like, right, all the patients seem fine.
Right.
Yeah, that's creepy.
Yeah. Nellie found it disheartening that these people were given no chance to prove their sanity, while a criminal on trial was given every chance to prove his innocence. Very good point. People, once you got here, it seemed like you were assumed crazy, and there was no way to fight it. You didn't get a lawyer. You didn't get a trial. There's none of that.
I feel like if
it's your word against theirs, and they're the ones calling the shots.
Well, look how many people she had to convince to get where she is. Now she has a crowd of people that are saying that she's crazy.
Oh yeah,
once
once there's a whole
to
crowd.
make it to this asylum, you have to have quite a few people thinking you're crazy.
Yep. Yeah, and you got no defense.
Right.
Add to that the rancid food, dirty linens, no warm clothing, and ice-cold baths that were a precursor to waterboarding, like a precursor to waterboarding. Bly described the ice-cold baths. Quote, "My teeth chattered and my limbs were goose-fleshed and blue with cold. Suddenly I got, one after the other, 3 buckets of cold water over my head, ice cold, 2 in my eyes, my ears, my nose, and my mouth. I think I experienced the sensation of a drowning person as they dragged me, gasping, shivering, and quaking from the tub. For once, I did look insane."
Weren't kids doing that on the internet for fun, though? Like, times have really changed. Ice bucket challenge, Nellie. Isn't that no big deal?
Right?
Right?
You did one of the first ice bucket challenges.
Yeah, big deal.
For a
Shake
good
it
cause.
off.
She did take that ice bath for a good cause.
Yeah, she did.
She made a lot of change later in this place.
She did.
But what was sad is she talked in the book a lot about how there were sick people. Mm-hmm. They were there because they were physically ill, right?
Right.
They're going through, they got the shivers already. And then the first thing they get done is thrown in a cold bath, have ice cold, dirty water. Because, I mean, they were bathing the same people in the same water.
Yeah.
And it's freezing in this asylum, as well. She mentions it constantly, how this place was so cold that, like, at one point, an outside doctor came in and told, like, the people running the institution, like, dude, that you need to turn it up in here. These people could get hypothermia. That's how cold it is.
Absolutely. And
then
you're
they're
giving them
throwing
cold baths and sending them to bed
and
wet.
they're already sick, which is why
Yeah.
a lot of them were here. They were just, like we said, casted out of society. We don't want to deal with them anymore.
Right.
And they're just pushing them over the edge with their sickness by throwing them in a cold bath. Yeah, it's not a good sign the first day she's here.
Right.
All this shit happened on the first day. Nellie was forced to go to bed without drying off and given a barely adequate slip to sleep in. When she asked for a nightgown so that she could try and stay warm, the attendant told her, "You are in a public institution now and you can't expect to get anything. This is charity and you should be thankful for what you get." On her first night there, Nellie realized that if there was a fire to break out, It would be impossible for anyone to get out safely. All of the rooms were locked and the windows were barred. She estimated that out of the 300 women in her building, maybe 10 could make it out safely. And she knew
Right, 'cause
the nurses were not going to go door to door and unlock
Hell no.
all of these doors.
These nurses didn't give a shit about these people. If the building was on fire, they would just leave probably. They would just leave all of them.
Right.
They may get a couple if they were any that they cared about.
Well, in the night that she spent at Bellevue, she noticed, I believe it was Bellevue that she had gone to, she noticed that there was one lever at the end of a hallway that would release all of the doors, kind of like a prison,
Yeah,
like there's
yeah.
one like master switch.
it's like
that
Sing
can-
Sing or somewhere. It's like a,
There's Sing Sing also had it as well.
yeah, that's like the most popular place
Right.
because it didn't help her case when she brought that up to the doctor.
The doctor said, well, how did you know about that? You
Right.
must have been, where'd you come from?
Yeah.
How'd you know about that? Because he said he can only think of one place, and it was Sing Sing.
Right, and
But
she had
obviously
probably
it was
already-
at more than one place.
Right,
because-
and she had also probably already researched all this stuff. I mean,
Right.
she is a reporter. She's researched different prisons and psych wards and seen how they operate before she went in, I'm sure.
Right.
You wouldn't just dive in and be like, oh, let's just see what's going on in here.
Yeah. While out on her first walk as a patient, Nellie witnessed a group of women on the rope, quote unquote. They were tethered together, much like a chain gang, and another patient told her that they were the most dangerous patients on the island. So they had their own chain gang for the craziest of the crazies.
Yeah.
Nellie found one of the worst parts about her experience was the endless enforced isolation. Here's a quote. What accepting torture would produce insanity quicker than this treatment? Take a perfectly sane and healthy woman, shut her up and make her sit from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. on a straight back bench. Do not allow her to talk or move during these hours. Give her no reading and let her know nothing of the world or its doings. Give her bad food and harsh treatment and see how long it will take to make her insane. 2 months would make her a mental and physical wreck. I agree 100%. We've done a couple cases about solitary confinement with prisoners. We did the Charlie Bronson, and we also did Nick Yaris, and both talked extensively about how brutal it is to be in
Just
isolation.
isolation.
Like that.
Yeah,
how
just
much it'll
being by
drive a normal
yourself.
person crazy.
Right. Pans Ram
Yeah.
talked a little bit about that as well. He spent a lot of time in isolation.
Yep. So yeah, these people go there because they need help, and they just get thrown in isolation. And we haven't even really gone into the food. The food was horrible, apparently.
Right.
Everything was cold. There was no salt on anything. You got to think that would actually start to really like affect people's health as well. Like salt is an important mineral that you have to have.
Yeah, it is.
And you start to cramp up and everything if you don't get it. It's how fluids stay in your body. It's a cheap way of.
And it makes vegetables edible.
Yeah, well, everything was completely like just boiled.
Yeah.
Like they would boil like a little chunk of meat for everyone, and there was nothing
Just
on it.
boil it. It's like the worst
horrible,
fucking
right?
way. We boil you a steak.
She
She
said that was like
please don't.
She said that's like the only thing that the patients there consistently wanted to talk about was how bad the food was. It drove that drove them crazier than anything else.
Oh, I bet,
Because like that's the one thing you have to look for. You're just sitting in isolation all day. I can't wait for dinner. Oh wait, great, another piece of boiled, unfucking flavored
Yeah.
meat. It's fucking disgusting.
Right? You don't realize how much pleasure you get from eating things until you're not allowed to eat what you want.
Right.
You're like, oh damn, that's like it's a big part of your happiness. Get a little bit of dopamine when you
Yep.
get something you like, you know?
Especially if you got nothing else going on. You got nothing else to look forward to. Just sitting there
Yeah.
staring at a wall.
That's true.
Some or all of the medical staff at Blackwell's Island seemed to be very poorly trained. Nellie witnessed a nurse report that she had taken the temperature of a patient with a fever and announced that it was 150 degrees,
What the fuck?
which I'm pretty sure you'd be dead. if that were the
That's
case.
not a thing.
Fucking about to internally
150
combust.
degrees. You fucking human torch sitting there.
She
What
burned
the
my
hell?
hand when I touched her.
Right.
Another nurse saw Nellie smirk at this report and went back to check herself. She came back with a report of 99 degrees.
There you go.
During the night, Nellie heard one of the women repeatedly cry out, begging God to let her die. In the morning, 2 nurses brought the woman out of her room, and Nellie noticed that she was at least 70 years old and blind.
God damn. Can you imagine trying to sleep with that? You got somebody
Brutal.
just begging for death and like across the hall.
Yeah, and this is what they did with her. When the old woman was brought into the sitting room and asked for something to keep her warm, when no one came to her aid, she got up and tried to leave the room, feeling her way out. The attendants would jerk her back to the bench she was sitting and watch her try again, laughing as she bumped into furniture. The woman then took her shoes off because they were hurting her feet. The nurses forced several patients to forcibly put the woman's shoes back on. So they're just tormenting this old
for
woman
no
who's
reason.
blind and just, and a living hell.
Yeah.
All she wants to do is die. That's how much she hates life, and you're going to torment her even more. And you're the nurses that are supposed to be helping these people.
Right.
The old woman laid back on the bench and cried out again for a blanket to keep her warm. One of the nurses went over and sat down on top of the woman and placed her cold hands on the woman's face. When the old woman cried, the nurse started laughing.
That's brutal, man.
Fucking sick.
What do you think? So there was a report. I think there was a report of one nurse that didn't act like the rest of the nurses, right?
Well, also the doctor
there
guy.
one-
There wasn't a doctor that was like the head that the nurses would report to and everything. And like he was, every time Nellie talked about him, she said he was very kind and nice. But
Yeah, but he
didn't
also
know
didn't
all
do
the
anything either, though.
He didn't know all the nurses was going on. She didn't think, but if he did, then he was just as if he's complicit in their
That's
behavior.
how I think he is.
Right.
I think like he wants his hands to be clean as far as dealing with these patients and treating them
Yeah.
with respect. But the stuff that goes on, he's like, well,
Kind of
you
like
know,
the
they got to take care
Sandusky
of
thing
them
that
like
went down in Penn State. Remember the whole Sandusky thing where he was over one of the coaches that was molesting
Oh, yeah,
kids and stuff, and he didn't do anything.
right.
I know it's.
I feel like it's
I know
kinda
it's
like
a
that.
touchy subject for people in Pennsylvania to defend the guy a lot, but because I don't know.
Do you
But
think there's something about
If he knew,
you think this
and he
kind
was
of
complicit,
treatment?
then he's just as guilty. That's the thing. It's like
Right.
if you knew what was going on, you didn't stop it. You have the power to stop it.
Exactly. But what I'm getting at is this treatment is very popular among sick people, among the elderly. Like if we knew half the shit that goes on in these like nursing homes and stuff,
Right,
dude,
right.
it would break our hearts. Like
I'm sorry, but I just laughed because
fucked
Ben Stiller popped in my head from
from what?
from Happy Gilmore. You will go to sleep, or I will put you to sleep.
Oh yeah.
Check out the name tag, Grandma. You're at my
Right.
house now.
It's fucked up,
Now
man.
your back's gonna hurt because you just pulled landscaping duty.
Why do you think makes these people do this? Like, why is that behavior so common? Do you think dealing with
I
those people
think-
day after
yes.
day,
Yeah, I was gonna
you feel
say-
like, why the fuck do I got to take care of you?
Yeah, I think
Like, just be-
sadly that's what happens. They go in and they think they want to help these people, but then they get worn down by having to deal with these people every day, and then
And they think you shit your pants again, really? Like
Right.
you did that shit on
maybe a
purpose.
couple of them drive them
Yeah.
crazy, and then they start being really mean to ones that didn't do anything wrong, and they just start getting off. I don't know. I would hope not all people are like that, but it does
Or
seem
do you
to be a
think
pretty
they
common
come-
theme.
Or do you think it's a case
Power
of
corrupts.
a case of like I have power over you,
Yeah.
or it could be like I'm gonna do a bad job so I don't get asked again. You know what I mean? Like when you were a kid, your mom
Yeah.
would just wash the dishes or whatever, put them in the dishwasher, and you just put them in there dirty and they don't get
Right.
clean. She's like, I just do it myself.
I just think you got to be a real special type of person to
Yeah.
be a nurse, and especially a nurse in a psychiatric ward where you're dealing with
nurse
people
is
who are
like-
not in their right mind. That's
Yeah.
got to be.
It's one of those jobs where you
gotta
have to
drain you.
love what you can't go
You
in it
have
for the
to.
money.
Yeah, it's
you
not
cannot,
gonna. Yeah,
no,
yeah.
nursing
If you're
is
doing
not
it
for the money.
If these people just did it because it was the only job they could get at the time,
Yeah.
then that's why they did that.
Yep.
But you have to go into it with a passion for taking care of people that are needy. People that need help.
And you also got to think that if you're a nurse and you truly have that passion, I don't think you're going to the psych ward. I don't
Right.
think you're going to the madhouse or whatever. Yeah, I think you're going to go and try to take care of people who can make a difference.
Right.
Or in your
I think
opinion,
about it all
you
the
gotta think-
time, dude.
yeah.
I'm so glad there's different types of people because I could never be a paramedic and help people. Like I feel like those people, thank God, cops, all those
Cops,
people
yeah.
that do the jobs that I don't want to do because, man, I
Absolutely.
don't know how you do it. I don't know how you respond to a car wreck with like
It's thankless too. It's thankless. Nobody gives
children
a shit.
and everything. Like, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, people don't give a shit that you're out there doing that.
Right.
They just think, well, that's what you want to do.
That's your job. That's what you're
Yeah.
supposed to do, right?
Yeah, exactly.
At times, Nellie witnessed patients who were purposely provoked by the nurses. When these patients then acted out, they were slapped and choked. An older woman, who Nellie believed to be insane because she spent her days constantly talking quietly to herself, was grabbed from the sitting room and yelled out, "For God's sakes, ladies, don't let them beat me."
That sounds pretty sane, though. That's a pretty
Right.
sane statement right there.
Yeah.
Like maybe she's just going over her thoughts, you know?
The nurse yelled at her and proceeded to drag the older woman out of the room by her hair. Nellie encountered a young Hebrew woman who had been committed to Blackwell's by her husband for no other reason than having, quote unquote, a fondness for other men than himself. So
That's so funny
he,
to me.
So he had her committed.
Yeah. So he came home and she was.
So she's basically put in a fucking hellish prison.
Yeah. Wow. Just because she was unfaithful.
Supposedly. I mean, maybe he
Supposedly.
just got sick
Yeah,
of her. We don't even
that's
know.
true.
This is just his side.
Why is that even
She
a
didn't have a
way?
trial.
I'd be like,
she didn't have a trial to say I never fucked around on him once. So
be like,
he's
sir,
just an asshole.
you may just want to get a lawyer. I don't know why
Right.
we need somebody to take care of your wife now. That doesn't make any. Somebody's already taking care of her. I think it's fine. No, I'm just kidding.
See him bragging at the bar later. Yeah, she's at Blackwell now.
Yep.
Shouldn't have looked at that guy.
Right. Oh wow! I didn't even.
Scumbag. That's probably what it was. He probably-
Just looked at her. Shouldn't have smiled at the mailman.
right.
One too many times, bitch.
Send you to Blackwell. She also met a woman who had been sent there because she was poor and needed some time off from work after a breakdown. She didn't seem to understand that she was in a mental institution, and she was once told that it was a place where they all sent poor people who applied for aid, as she had done.
Oh, so they're like, okay, yeah, you need aid, you need government assistance. Here you go.
Right.
You can get the basis of it. Free room and board.
Right?
right.
Yeah. Free slop. During the first few nights, Nellie could not sleep and did not want to as she continued to make her observations. She's writing all this stuff down, I think, or is she making mental notes? Do you think she was able to take a notepad? Or
She
have
had a notepad for a while, but then one of the nurses took her pen and paper, giving her the notepad back, but they never gave her a pencil. So from there
Nellie
on,
kind of like, I think she got a little bit like the doctor that was running the place, she kept going to him and he liked her and she would like tell him of this mistreatments and stuff like that. And I think the nurses became threatened by Nellie.
oh, of course,
because
she's going over their head.
Nellie's ratting on her,
Yeah.
ratting on them and stuff. And like, they're a little worried that, that they're going to get canned or something like that. So at times I think they are a little nicer to Nellie just out of fear that she's going to rat them out.
Oh, yeah.
The night nurses complained about her lack of sleep one night and brought her a mixture in a glass to make her sleep. She refused to drink the concoction as she did not want to lose my wits even for hours. The nurses left but returned with a doctor, and he became very rough when she continued to refuse the drink. He told her that he had wasted too much time already, and if she did not take it, he would put a needle in her arm. She weighed her options and realized the needle was likely to knock her out for longer and enable them to keep her sedated, so she took the drink knowing that it would eventually pass out of her system. As soon as they left the room, Nellie stuck her finger down her throat as far as it would go, and she managed to throw up the drink and avoid the side effects, or the effects.
Yeah, it was. What do you think it was? Just a strong sleeping mess, and probably
Drugs.
all it was.
Yeah, sleeping drugs.
Something to knock her
That's
out.
what they do, man.
They're just like,
a
go
lot
to
of
sleep.
these places, they're just a lot easier to deal with you if you're all fucked up. Talked about it in Bronson, that place that made everybody just kind of dancing around in circles and stuff.
Oh, right,
Remember the
yeah.
place he was in?
Yeah.
And he acted drugged up so he could beat that guy up real bad.
Oh, yeah.
That's great.
That was crazy.
Patreon.com/True Crime Guys to hear the Bronson story.
That is a good one.
The patients at Blackwell were only allowed to bathe once a week, and they were forced to wash in the same tub as another until the water was thick. Ugh.
That's so gross, man. The water was thick. They had to use the word thick. Thick with water.
Right.
Oh.
You don't want to be the last person in that bath.
No.
In the thick water.
Just other people's hair just hanging off of you and shit while you're getting up.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Water doesn't drain off. It's just shiny. It's like a film on your skin.
Yeah. Oh, my guy would be in high demand at this place.
Yeah.
Could sell it. The tub was then drained and refilled without being rinsed out. All the women share the same towels, those with sores and those without. So anybody with some kind of a contagious skin disease or anything like that, you're just getting it on you.
Oh, man.
The patients were only given a change of clothes about once a month. If they had a visitor, though, the nurses would rush to give them a change of clothes and force them to change quickly before presenting themselves. So they were very secretive about their mistreatment of these.
Oh, of course. I'm sure the people looked just tidy when people were coming to visit.
God, what does that remind you of? Yeah, are you thinking? This reminds me of Jonestown. Remember when they came down to see it? They were on their best behavior. Everybody's singing and dancing. It looks all peachy. Nobody's out basically doing slave work.
That's a good point. Slave. Oh gosh, yeah. Old Jonestown. He had the charade down.
Yeah.
Yeah. When people would visit, everybody he would buy people new clothes to wear and stuff.
And
just
he
to be
would
presentable.
make the people staying there speak as how much they loved this place and this is wonderful.
If you said anything bad about it, oh my
Right.
god, you taken care of. It's so creepy.
Right.
Those people were doing it voluntarily.
Yeah. So there was a lot of people that did love it there, I
Yeah.
believe. But man, there's a lot that didn't.
Oh yeah.
This place, however, no one loved it.
No one wanted to be here.
I pretty confidently say I don't think anybody was having a good time in Blackwell.
No.
the
The nurses
1800s.
maybe. Apparently.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It seemed like they're having a
Fucking with
blast
the
terrorizing
patients.
these people.
Assholes.
Right. One woman had dared to get out of line one day during the daily walk because she saw her husband coming to visit. She was sent to the retreat where most of the worst patients were kept for this offense. She told Nellie that while she was being beaten with a broom handle for crying, and the nurses jumped on her with such force that she believed she sustained permanent internal injuries.
Yeah, probably.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Don't get out of line at Blackwell.
No.
Her
Didn't they
hand-
choke her out too?
Yeah,
To
her-
where like she never talked the same or something?
Her hands and feet were tied together, and a sheet was thrown over her head and twisted tightly at her throat
Yeah,
so that
okay.
she was unable to scream. She was then placed into a tub of ice-cold water and held under until she nearly passed out. This is straight torture.
Basically waterboarding someone for
is
getting
like-
out of line to see their husband.
This is like
That's what
what
just
the
happened.
government secretly does to terrorists. They're doing to this girl.
Yeah.
Why? Because she got a little out of line with her husband coming to visit.
Yep.
Other times they grabbed a hold of her ears and beat her head against the floor and wall. They also pulled her hair out by the root so aggressively she was certain it would not grow back. God. Near the end of her stay, Nellie's cover was almost blown. A fellow reporter she'd known for years was sent by another newspaper to write about the mysterious patient.
Yeah.
That's got to be her, right? The mysterious patient? That's hilarious. She almost got blown because they were coming to...
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something wrong with her. She's like totally sane because at this time, like we said earlier, she's not acting insane anymore.
She's acting normal now.
Yeah, she's like, I'm done with this. Like, I need to act as sane
She's a
as
young,
possible.
pretty girl that's now acting normal, and
Yes.
she's in Blackwell, so it's kind of drawn a little bit of attention. He himself posed as a man in search of a lost loved one. Bly begged her friend not to give her away, and he didn't. So she had to, like, on the sneak tip, kind of hushly say to him, like, don't blow this.
Yeah,
And
that's
so-
crazy. So he was a reporter, and he recognized her
Yeah,
as a reporter. I
exactly.
was like, wait a second.
Yeah. Finally, after 10 days, the World, the newspaper she worked for, sent an attorney to arrange for Nellie Brown's release. 2 days later, she does get out. Like they said, they would get her out. They got her out, and she goes public. 2 days later, the paper ran the first installment of Bly's story entitled "Behind Asylum Bars." And back then, you get a newspaper like that. That's like the best podcast ever.
Oh, right.
You see that drop, you're like,
Asylum bars.
Behind Asylum Bars, dude.
Oh, we should call this episode that.
Right? Oh, I like it.
Boom.
The psychiatric doctors who'd been fooled offered apologies, excuses, and defenses. The story traveled across the country with papers applauding Bly's courageous achievement. Almost overnight, she became a star journalist. But for Bly, it wasn't about the fame. Here's a quote. "I have one consolation for my work," she wrote. "On the strength of my story, the Committee of Appropriation provides $1 million more than was ever given before for the benefit of the insane."
Nice.
The city had already been considering increasing the budget for asylums, but Bly's article helped pushing things along. A month after her series ran, Bly returned to Blackwell with a grand jury panel. In her book, she says that when they made their tour, many of the abuses she reported had been corrected. The food services and sanitary conditions were improved. The foreign patients who had been transferred, or the foreign patients that were there just because they couldn't speak the language, had been transferred out, and the tyrannical nurses had disappeared. Her mission was accomplished. She would go on to do more sensational exploits, most notably in 1889, circling the globe in a record-setting 72 days.
That's amazing. 72 days.
Yeah, she had meant to beat out Jules Verne's fictional trip in around the world in 80 days, and she did so.
How does Jules Verne's got to feel? Like
He didn't even do it. It was fictional, and
I
she
just
beat it.
made up a time, and she still beat it. Fuck. No, I should have said 50 days.
Should have done it in 49. In later years, she retired from journalism and founded her own company, designing and marketing steel barrels for used for milk cans and boilers. She died in 1922. Pretty sad. After all those cold baths at Blackwell's Island, she ended up dying of pneumonia later on at only
Seriously?
58 years old.
Oh my God! So she traveled around the
57,
world in
actually.
72 days, had all those cold baths and terrible treatment in the asylums, and God knows what else she did. I'm sure she did other undercover stuff here and there.
Yeah.
That was maybe less notable or whatever, but and then dies of pneumonia at 58,
57, actually.
57.
Yeah.
Well, she got some shit done. She did more in her life than a lot of people
Oh,
do
yeah,
in their
then we'll
life
do
of
for damn
90.
sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the Nellie Bly story. And behind bars in the asylum.
Behind asylum bars.
One last quote. "The insane asylum on Blackwell's Island is a human rat trap. It is easy to get in, but once there, it is impossible to get out." But
She
not
got
so
out
much
pretty
anymore
easy.
because it's like a tourist attraction now.
But she
So
got
not so
out kind
hard.
of easy. But you know what I was thinking?
She got out easy.
They
She's
were-
the only one, though.
They were ready for her to get out, probably because, like you said earlier, she was going above their heads all the time to this doctor, and I'm sure he was probably saying some stuff like here and there, like, "Hey, you might want to lay low. Like maybe she's not as crazy as we think, or whatever." And who knows? Maybe I think at
Do you
that
think
time
she had the stink of a reporter on her and they started to pick
Yeah,
up on it after a while?
Yeah, and
Because
they're
she
like,
started
okay.
acting normal once she's in there, and then she's
Right.
asking for all these rights, like,
Yeah,
get this person a blanket. Do
they're like,
this,
how do
know.
you know that they
Reporting
can even,
on the fact that there's no salt, on the food and all that shit.
right?
They literally just wanted, they would have died for, you could have sold salt, like, you could have got them to do anything for a little pinch of salt. It sounded like that's how, dude, try eating something with no salt, man.
Dude,
Period.
I don't do
It's
it.
horrible.
Man. I don't eat anything no salt.
It's horrible.
Shit, I salt my cereal, bro. Don't even
Put
care.
salt in your cereal?
No.
No.
But I salt a lot of stuff.
I eat a dangerous amount of butter. I live
Me
life on
too,
the edge,
dude,
bro.
fucking butter. Bring
Butter's
it.
so good.
Butter and salt, bro.
My favorite snack
Bring
is Ritz crackers dipped in like room temperature butter, where it's soft. Dude, fucking amazing.
Right.
Try it, guys. Try it. If you want to put on
You're
some
missing
pounds
out.
real quick.
Butter and crackers, bro. Is eating that stuff up.
Yeah, so
All right.
that's Nellie Bly, 10 Days in a Madhouse. Great book. If you guys want to
Yeah.
get it, it has an Audible form.
Yep. So let us-
Audible.com. That's an unofficial sponsor, but we use it for almost every case that we do.
We do. You guys, you have to get it. It's an absolute necessity.
You guys already
If
listen
you-
to podcasts, dude?
Yeah.
Audiobooks are the shit.
They're so easy. They're so easy. Just not as much. I mean, obviously, they're not conversations or whatnot, but I've read more books on Audible than I have my whole life.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Like
it's
50 times more books.
Right. Because you can, I mean, you can do work. You can
Yep.
still work while you listen. You can do yard work, whatever you need to do.
Why read when you can have someone else read it to you? It's like a bedtime story
and then, like,
for your life.
oh, that reminds me. The narrator for this book was amazing.
She was
Wasn't
great.
she?
Yeah, she was great.
Oh, dude. Like, her voice was great. And then I could tell
Yeah, it
when
was
she was doing
perfect.
other
It
characters.
felt old timey.
I love when
It kind
people
of brought
do
you
that.
back to, you felt like you were at Blackwell's Island.
Yeah, I like when people read and they do different voices. Some people are like, "Oh, it's a terrible accent." Man, fuck off. Listen,
Right.
at least I can tell that it's somebody else. You know what I'm saying? I'd like to be able to tell that. I can just sit and listen to this conversation, and especially when the narrator is consistent and they
Yeah.
do the same voice for
Yeah.
that character every time.
Yep.
Like what'd she do? She did French accent. She did a German accent. She did all kinds of stuff.
Yep.
Like a Mexican accent or like a Cuban accent rather. She was pretty good. She was a good reader. That helps.
Great book. Great choice, Michael.
Thanks, man.
And,
I hope you guys like this. I know this is different. It's different from what we have done in the past.
I think it was a fun
But-
conversation.
That was.
If they don't like it, I don't. Whatever. Wait for
whatever.
the next one or don't.
shit.
Unsubscribe. I don't care.
Well, we got Patreon
Do what
next
you gotta
week,
do.
right?
Do what you gotta do, huh? We didn't do any New York accents.
We got.
We didn't do any New York.
It's a New York
What the fuck?
accent. What the
Hey,
fuck?
Nelly over there.
Hey, shut up! I'll waterboard your ass.
Get in that cold bath, Nelly. Nelly, what kind of name is Nelly? Stupid. Yeah, we got some shout outs for everybody. Let's talk about Oh My Gaia.
Oh my Gaia.
Oh My Gaia, I smell good.
Oh my. Me too, man. I'm rocking True Crime Pine today.
Me too. Me too.
Nice. We're on schedule now. Oh My Gaia is an innovative all-natural deodorant, fragrance, and beard oil company specializing in paraben and aluminum-free products. Their innovative line of deodorants. Their innovative line of deodorants inhibit the growth of odor-causing bacteria while maintaining effectiveness. At Oh My Gaia, they use only all-natural paraben and aluminum-free organic ingredients. And like we mentioned, we have our very own scent at Oh My Gaia called True Crime Pine. So if you want to smell exactly
Hell
like
yeah.
we do on recording days, boom, hit that shit up. But if that's not for you, she's got vanilla, cherry almond, sandalwood, lavender, lemongrass, Egyptian musk, coconut, dreamsicle, leather, all kinds of new stuff. What's another favorite? Barbershop. That's a new one. That
Barbershop's
one's really
great.
good. But the good news for you
My
guys
wife
is,
loves Sweet Pea. Sweet Pea
yeah,
is amazing.
Sweet pea, exactly. But if you guys want to try it, no better time than now. You can use Creeper for 15% off. CREEPER as a code, Creeper. That'll get you 15% off your first order. You can order on ohmygaia.com. That's OHMYGAIA.com or at shop_ohmygaia on Instagram.
Hell yeah. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at True Crime Guys on Twitter and Instagram. Facebook, we have a private group
Yep.
run by Michelle K.
Yep, you can search True Crime Closed Group if you want to follow that and get in the conversation with some other creepers and whatnot on there, or just search True Crime Guys for the regular Facebook page. I also have personal accounts on Instagram.
And I'm Michael.
Yeah, and I'm Michael on Twitter and Instagram. So you can follow me on there. Anything else? Any shout outs?
Yeah, patreon.com. If you guys
Yes.
you're somewhat new listener, you benched through all episodes, you were wondering if there's any more True Crime Guys, patreon.com/True Crime Guys. Go there, $2 a month.
Right.
One $2 pledge. You could listen to all of our episodes. There's 17 or something on there.
Yeah,
There's-
16 or 17 episodes.
and it's
on
all
there
the
now.
big hitters. You
Right.
know, you get freaking John Wayne Gacy and Ted Bundy and Dahmer and
Right.
and then just a mix of random stuff like Ruby Ridge and
Yep.
Stanley Tookie Williams. Jonestown. That was I think that was my favorite one ever.
Really?
That's my favorite case ever.
That was a good case.
I just love it. It's got a little bit of everything.
It is. It's so
Mass
creepy.
murder, cult. It's freaking phenomenal.
It is.
Yeah, and you did it. That's my favorite intro too. If you guys haven't heard the intro for the Jonestown episode, it gave me chills.
That was the easy
Who else
one
have
to
we
do.
done on there? We've done some good ones. We mentioned a bunch of times Charlie Bronson. We did his
Yeah.
story on there. We did like
That's right.
2 hours plus on him. A lot of the episodes are like 3 hours long.
Yeah, they are, because they're bigger cases. They're more involved. So we usually take 2 weeks to study on those. Whatever, bring in some heavy hitters. Sometimes we'll do like 2 books.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of information there.
And if you're one of those people that bought a Powerball ticket recently, the Powerball got to an enormous heights, and there was
Yeah.
lines everywhere in Nevada because you can't get them here.
Right.
So the few places are like on the edge of the state or right in California towns.
Right.
Are insane. We do a drawing every month. If you're an active patron, you get in. Your name gets tossed in, and if we pick you, you get to pick something from our store.
Right.
You get something for free.
Hey, you want to
So
give away one of those new hoodies?
We're gonna give away a hoodie this month. Absolutely.
You want to give
Let's
away
do
the Supreme hoodie?
the Supreme hoodie.
Yes.
Yeah. Hopefully we
got-
don't get sued.
We won't.
They don't know about us. We're too small. to-
Yeah, exactly. No, we got a new design now. It says it's kind of like the Supreme logo, but it says
Yeah.
"Keep Creeping." And I designed some white hoodies for that. And there's also T-shirts. There's a fanny pack. You get a fucking fanny pack.
Basically,
if you
what we do with the drawing is if we pick you, you basically just get to pick anything you want. So if you want
Yeah.
the Supreme hoodie, you can pick that, or you
Yeah,
can pick
that's
our
true.
old designs.
If you want
where-
something else.
Some people hate on the Supreme thing. Like, that's played out. But
Yeah, whatever.
yeah, fuck you.
Yeah, he's just doing it because it's fun. It's just a fun thing.
Yeah, no, not fuck you. But they're designed for everybody. That's how I feel. Like
Yeah,
you don't have to get mad at us because we made a new design. So there's people that like it. So let them have that, and then you have the classic
Exactly.
creeper
We don't
van
get
feel.
rid of old designs.
Right.
That's the beauty of like services like King Custom and Redbubble. Redbubble is still up, guys. If you want to go on redbubble.com/True Crime Guys, all of our like early designs on there. The Creep Van, Keep Creeping, Let's Go Do Cult Shit, all kinds of stuff is still on there. Right? Like the old headshot logo. If you want a shirt with like the original logo that we had, it's still available.
Yeah.
All that shit's still there. Stickers.
Yep.
You can get all kinds of stuff. And Redbubble stickers are die cut too, so they're really cool. They're cut the exact shape of the logo.
Right.
Which is pretty dope. But we also have Ken Custom
We're
now.
thinking about doing. We've only talked about this a little bit one-on-one,
Yeah.
but a secret menu type of thing for Patreon as well.
Yeah.
Where like if you donate certain key numbers,
Yeah. Then you will get
then you might get a certain special secret gift sent to you.
right, exactly.
Like
So,
if you were to
but we
donate,
can't say it. We just
Yeah.
have to wait for somebody to hit
If you
it.
were to
Is that what we're
donate the
doing?
Devil's Mark,
Maybe I
per
could
month.
get somebody to anonymously post it into like the closed group or something, and then that'll get it started.
yeah, we want the
maybe.
In-N-Out special menu.
Yeah, we want a secret menu on
donors.
Patreon. If you donate a certain like strange number or something, then
Right.
we'll figure out something.
Yeah, we'll figure something out. Cool. I want to thank sticker donors. So if you go to our website, truecrimeguys.com, there's a link for the stickers on there. There's like a tab, I believe on the right says stickers. Click on that. Or at the bottom of the episode description, Michael puts it in there, a link
Yep.
for stickers.
There's also a link to both of our merch stores too, if you want, guys.
Yeah.
The Redbubble store and King Custom store. There's links down there.
Right in the description of the episode you're listening
Yep.
to right now on your app, whatever app you're using, just click it. But these people donated for stickers. Just whatever you want to donate, a few bucks or more, whatever you want to do, I will send you some stickers and a personalized note. Sasha in Virginia this week sent us money for some stickers. Thank you. I will have those out soon, as well as Jason in Utah and Nick in where the hell? Oh, Australia. Australia, mate.
Oh,
down
nice.
under. I'm gonna send you some stickers down under, and I'm about to
Nice.
use 50 stamps.
Right. Hopefully it still makes it.
Yep. Hopefully a dingo don't eat it.
Right.
Our terrible accents and stereotypes. You guys gotta love it, right?
What do you?
If he's still listening and donating for stickers,
what do you
he
want?
likes it. So
Yeah, exactly. What do
good
want
on you,
from us?
Nick. Keep craping.
We got a couple new reviewers. A.R. Jones 2009 left us a 5-star review. Thank you. And Luke D. Port also left us a 5-star review.
And a bunch of people just went and clicked 5 stars. We noticed the number going up, so thank you
Yeah,
guys. You don't have to
yes.
write a review. Just go
No.
and click 5 stars if
Absolutely.
you want.
And Ryan and Amber Doyle. There's your shout out. Boom. That's Ryan, who we gave him a shout out, but he forgot to mention his wife's name because
Oh,
his
yeah.
wife didn't believe that we do shout outs.
Right.
So there you go, Amber. See,
Even
we
though
do
you're not a
shout-outs.
believer.
Yeah. You're not.
Don't believe in this fake shout out.
Yeah,
right
this
now.
is not a real shout out. Forget this one.
Right. All right,
All right,
guys.
anything else? Can we,
I think that's it. Are we doing a free episode again next week? What are we
I
doing?
think it's Patreon week next week.
Patreon
Man. It's
next
first of the
week.
month.
Oh,
So we'll
Patreon.
also be announcing that giveaway.
Yeah.
It'll probably be available by the 4th.
Yeah.
Fifth at
So
the
if you're not a
latest.
patron, now's a good time to join because next week will be a new Patreon exclusive episode, and then
Right.
you'll unlock all the other ones too. So
We will record on November 3rd, guys. So, and that is when we will do the drawing here.
Yeah.
On the show on
except
the 3rd.
we can't talk about it publicly on Patreon because
Right. There'll be no more Patreon posts about giveaways. That doesn't, as far as Patreon.
just
is
know that it's
concerned.
going to happen. Just know that
Yeah.
it's going to happen.
Right.
But they got on our case about it. Supposedly we're not supposed to do it, but we're rebels. So.
Yeah, whatever.
All right, guys. Keep creeping.
All right. Keep
See
creeping,
y'all
guys.
next week.
See ya.
True crime guys, in the desert we like a mirage. It's okay if you clicked on us cause you thought we was True Crime Garage. Now we ain't mad at you. Sit down, let us talk at you. I'm talking to the creeper army. We out here making murder, get murder.
So we're just arguing about a fun fact of the week that Michael brought to me again.
Right, but it's by Snapple this time, so we know it's true. We know it's true. Although a lot of Snapple facts have been debunked. Like they said that caller ID was illegal in California, apparently. Like fact number 70 or something. But that's obviously not true.
Wrong, yeah.
That's wrong. But this one caught me by surprise. It says the King of Hearts is the only king without a mustache.
So I promptly ran and grabbed a pack of cards from my drawer,
And
pulled out the kings. Sure enough.
It is correct.
There's weird, subtle differences to playing cards like that you wouldn't expect. You'd expect the patterns to be the same. All the kings, just the.
Well, it seems like why not, right? It seems like that would be the easiest way to do it. People don't really care what the king looks like. They just care about that little symbol and the color. That's it.
But there's cool details. It's almost like the same artist that designed like our money designed these cards. Like there's subtle little differences you wouldn't expect. Like other than the fact that the King of Hearts is the only one without a mustache, like their swords are different.
The King
Some
of
of
Hearts
them
has
don't
the sword
have
in the head.
swords.
He has the sword in the head.
King of Hearts is he's like a sums up. He's like a young goth or something. He's got no mustache.
I don't know what
He's he's putting his own sword in his head.
Right. It's strange.
But there is a weird, so I looked into this to see if it's true. All over the internet, they talk about it, and there's a theory to the fact that the one king doesn't have a mustache.
It's a pretty good theory, too.
Yeah. So English legend states that a king once lived with his 4 sons, whom he planned to split the kingdom with. All had mustaches except one. He had a painting of each son and made a poem about the painting, saying that in his inheritance he would leave the odd king out. Meaning, the son that had no mustache would not receive an inheritance. So it's just a
no
fable.
mustache, no money, bro.
It's a fable, but maybe that explains why the King of Hearts has no mustache.
Why not? I mean, that's a pretty good
awesome,
explanation.
though,
Yeah. I guess because maybe he chose love over money and the kingdom and his family. He probably fell in love with some girl, and they were like, well, if you're going to pick her, if you're going to go be with the,
didn't
it's like a Romeo and
mustaches
Juliet
either.
type thing. Yeah, she didn't like mustaches, so he was like, bro, listen.
And then she left him, and he put a sword in his own head.
That's right.
Gotcha.
He got nothing. He left with nothing. Like, she left him. Maybe because
Poor King of Hearts.
Yeah. Maybe because his mustache just kept growing back too fast. And she was like, I just can't deal with it. And he was like, but mustaches are running my family. Like, this is a big sacrifice I'm already making. I'm shaving twice a day, Juliet.
I picture him just sad and unable to grow a mustache, like his 3 brothers, and he just like one single. There needs to be a single tear going down the King of Hearts cheek, and then he puts a sword in his head because he can't grow a mustache.
But he still has a beard.
Still, he wants a mustache though.
He's got the chin strap beard growing on
I could
pretty
grow
strong.
this great beard, man.
He's got